What is going on, guys? It's your boy Grip and Rip. Welcome back to a brand new video where I am on this is a Suzuki SV650 2018. If you're wondering why I'm on this, my bike was knocked over in a car park and is currently being fixed, so that's why. But I figured I'd use the opportunity to do a quick review on this bike. It is of course 35 kilowatt because of my license, but I can still give you guys a pretty good idea as to what this bike is like to ride. Now then, the first thing I will say about this bike is it's not particularly easy to turn it on. You can't just put the key in the ignition and turn it. That doesn't work. What you have to do is sort of jig about with it for a bit, and then eventually it does come on. I'm 100% sure this is just a fault with this bike, not all SV650s, but it's the experience that I'm having with this one. So now, we're all about positivity on this channel, so I've given you a negative feature. Let's give you a couple of good ones. First of all, the material of the seat is like a kind of waterproof type thing. Like, I'll get water all over it if it's rained, but my seat will be relatively dry. It's quite weird, but very useful. Means I don't get a wet crotch. Second of all, this is the first bike I've owned with a range, which is very useful. I've got 71 miles until I need to fill up. Never had that on a bike before. Very useful. I do like it. Let's have a look at how she sounds. It has a whistle to it. It's quite a nice noise. It's a bit like a Triumph until you reach 5,000 RPMs. They've kindly highlighted that, presumably to make sure that nobody surpasses that, because then it sounds like the kind of noise you would expect a dishwasher or a washing machine to make if you threw a brick into it, which I will demonstrate when we're on the road. Sitting on the bike, it's quite a nice, comfortable seat. It's quite low down to the floor. I'm 6 foot tall, so it is a little low for me. Let's go. Okay, now we're moving. I'll demonstrate the noise. At 4,000 RPM, 4.5, 5. It just sort of goes, ugh. Who wants a bike that goes at you? Get an aftermarket can if you've got one of these. The mirrors are good. This is the first bike I've actually ridden where the stock mirrors actually show the road behind me. It's a very rare commodity on a motorcycle, so it gets 5 stars for its mirrors. I think it gets 5 stars for the way it looks as well, especially in the blue and white colour scheme. This bike does look good. Apart from the dashboard, which looks like it's just somebody shot the top off of an old Game Boy and glued it on the front. It's a budget bike, it's built to a budget, but in a world where everything's full of LCD screens and stuff like that, the dashboard is a bit yesterday. And one thing I will say is, I'm not comparing this bike with my motorcycle. I'm going into this road test with a completely neutral mindset, so there's going to be no biased. Facts wise though, I will say that this bike is heavier than my MT and at the same time feels smaller, which is quite an unusual combination. This is like a short fat bloke. The MT is like a tall skinny dude. I don't think anybody's ever compared the SV650 to a short fat bloke before. I might be the first. It is very throwable. You can have some good old-fashioned fun in the twisties. You can get your knee down quite easily with overtaking. Manages that pretty well as well. Country twisty roads like this bike is fun. I am quite enjoying riding it. Now, this isn't obviously the first time I've ridden it. I've got to know the bike over the space of the past week when it was delivered to me, so I've done a bit of town riding, a bit of country riding. Country riding is good. I do like this bike for that. In a town, it's a bit dull. It feels like what it is, which is a hire bike. It feels like the kind of bike that was built just for hire companies to provide to people who had had accidents. But as soon as you open it up, it becomes a totally different animal, and it is fun and exciting. The power is, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but 73 horsepower. Obviously not this one, but accelerate quite well. That was 50 in first. The suspension is good on this as well. It is very forgiving. The ride is amazing. The seat's quite sloped. It's kind of pushing me into the tank a bit, but the suspension is very good. Oh yes, the brakes, they work. They work indeed. The back one is kind of hard. It's kind of like standing on the floor, but I'm sure that's just general wear and tear. This bike does have over 13,000 miles on it, and I'm sure it can be adjusted to a bit where it moves a little bit more, but it works, as I've just shown. 21 miles an hour. This is good. Yeah, this bike does work well at 20 miles an hour. For those of you that wanted to know. Yeah, it can even do 24. Now then, one thing I will say is this bike is available in a couple of different styles. A friend of mine, Josh, shout out Josh, has the Cafe Racer version, which I can't help but compare this to, because it's exactly the same bike, just styled slightly differently. And in my comparison, I have to say, I've very briefly ridden Josh's. His feels a little bit more special. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the boring dash I have to look at, or I can't quite put my finger on it, but compared to the Cafe Racer, this one is a little, dare I say, boring, in my opinion. Just in my opinion. It's a good bike. It does everything it says on the tin. It is fun, but at times, specifically at slow speeds as well, it is a bit boring. And maybe if they'd taken the time to give it a slightly better dashboard, or made it a little bit bigger, or made it sound a little bit nicer, maybe I'd have a slightly different opinion, but they didn't, so I don't. Sorry. So as we come towards the end of the ride, let's take a moment somewhere and pull over and have a little think about what we think of the SV650. So there we have it, the SV650. It is a good bike. There's a few little things that I don't like about it, I'll be honest. The dashboard, how annoying it is to get the key in and out of, the sound. But other than that, it's fantastic. If you guys want to see more reviews of more motorcycles, then let me know by leaving a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully I'll have my bike back by then. Peace.